All right, welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast about two guys who watch random movies all thanks to the power of some sort of magic algorithm. I'm Noah Saturn, and with me today is the red pill to my blue pill, Kyle Mulford.
Hello, Internet. Hello, Matrix. Are you real? Are you not real?
Or somewhere in between?
On a train station, perhaps?
Or are we the third movie in a trilogy that really wasn't meant to be a trilogy?
That might be it.
Whoa.
So, what did we watch? I think we've got enough clues here.
Yeah, we watched The Matrix Revolutions, the final part in the Matrix trilogy, although I have neither seen The Matrix or The Matrix Reloaded, so this was an experience.
You must be really confused.
Well, it's one of those things where, you just kind of absorb it through cultural osmosis, because I know that they're a thing, and I know basically what happens. But I can't say that I've necessarily sat down and watched either of those two films, front to back.
Well, I'm going to say Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolution. Well, don't let this one ruin you on The Matrix, because you really need to see The Matrix.
I think I've seen enough from the clips I've seen. You catch it on cable every once in a while.
Okay, so what's this movie about then? Could you figure that out?
Basically picking up right after where the last one ended. They figured out some mumbo jumbo with the architect or the guy in the white suit, and now Neo has to do the last thing to save the world of Zion from the evil Squidward bots or whatever.
Yeah, the little octopus robot things.
Squidward bots.
Squid bots.
Squidbot.
And with the help of Patrick and the other guy, Sponge Bear, Sponge Square,
Squidbot, and Patrick.
I'm just not even gonna finish that. He also has to save the Matrix from Hugo Weaving.
And Hugo Weaving and his creepy laugh face.
And so many Hugo Weavings.
All right, so I suppose there's no more avoiding it. Let's jack in. And
I know Kung Fu.
Okay, and something.
Okay, so who directed this?
This is directed by the Wachowskis, who, at the making of this film, which was in 2003, they were the Wachowski brothers, but now they're the Wachowski sisters, so, cool.
Lana and Lily, I believe.
Lana and Lily, and I believe it was, something in Larry.
Yeah, Larry sounds right. I don't remember the other one's name, because they were always the Wachowski sibling. The Wachowski brothers. Then one changed, and it became the Wachowski siblings. Now is it the Wachowski sisters?
It is the Wachowski sisters, yeah, so.
There you go.
Cool.
To each their own. So we start off with this one because this movie was filmed back to back with the second one, and it was set as a two-parter. So they actually both released in 2003. And so this one just goes straight from the end of the second one, I believe. And I don't know if you read any cliff notes on the second one, but I've tried to forget these two movies before I watched this. And if this is giving any indication of whether you should watch this one or not, I think we've spoiled that.
We should save that for the end. Let's be real, Kyle. All I know is that, like I said, we wake up and then Neo is in a comatose state, and he's still in the Matrix without actually having been connected to the Matrix.
Yeah.
And he's in a train station.
This is the cleanest train station I have ever seen on film.
It's a really nice train station, but I think probably my favorite scene in the entire movie is when he's just trying to escape the train station, so he just tries to run out one end, and he ends up in the other end.
That was actually a great scene. That was edited really well there.
That's probably the funniest scene in the entire film, at least for me.
And the rest of it is unintentionally funny, right? So he wakes up at the train station, and there's a little girl there, and then she's there with her parents, and they're trying... So in the Matrix, programs are designed as people in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm. Because magic science.
So there's people and there's programs, and they all look like people, so it's really confusing. And so they have a little girl, so apparently programs can have babies in the Matrix.
I assume it's he coded his own daughter.
Yeah.
You go to Walmart, buy the chip or something, plug it in, and put it in a 3D printer, then you're good.
And she doesn't really have a purpose or anything, so they're trying to take her. Were they taking her out of the Matrix, or?
Their plan, so they were technically out of the Matrix because this magic train station is kind of I think of it the train station from the last Harry Potter book, where Harry was in that where he wasn't quite alive, wasn't quite dead, so that's kind of the same.
Yeah, because this train station is like limbo.
Yeah.
Between the real world and the Matrix. And then there's a train man there. I think that like what's the problem is that they did so well with the Matrix, and it's such a great standalone movie, and it has a lot of great like insights into what's real and are we all just a big computer program? Like the ideas that they went into were so great that they go, oh, people loved this. Let's expand on it, and it just became a jumbled mess of nonsense.
Yeah, I didn't really do the research, and we don't know who wanted to expand on it, whether it was the Wachowskis or whether it was the studio. So, because The Matrix came out in 1999, and to put some context, at least personal context for me, I was 5 when The Matrix came out.
Well, if you were only 5, I'm not going to say how old I was.
Did you see it in theaters?
I definitely saw it in theaters.
Probably more than once.
Matrix probably twice at least. I didn't go to a lot of movies like multiple times at that age. I just won't even say. I'm a lot older.
So you were old enough to see the film in theaters. We know that much.
Yes, and I loved it. I loved the first one, and then I saw the second one in the theater, I believe. And after the second one, I said no more. I did not watch the third one that same year.
So you're saying it was like Transformers: Rise of the Fallen?
Yeah, kind of. Where the series just kept going downhill. Kind of like we're going downhill. We got Neo in the train station, and then Morpheus, Lawrence Fishburne, or Cowboy Curtis, if you will.
Nice.
Trinity.
Or Mr. Clean from Apocalypse Now. That's his first role, so I don't know.
And
Tops
Trinity.
from Blackish.
Yeah,
It's really good in Blackish. Watch Blackish. It's a good. It's a great sitcom.
That is a good show. Yes. Trinity, played by Carrie-Ann Moss, and then Seraph. I don't remember his name, the actor's name, who played Seraph.
We'll just call him Sans Seraph, just for kicks.
They go to the Oracle and talk to her, and here's where it's kind of funny, where they had to like change the story, I believe, but like because before they started filming, in the first Matrix, an actress named Gloria Foster played the Oracle, and she died before filming the second and third, so she was replaced by Mary Alice, and I think that they must have just wrote it in there because there was a line of dialogue that said something about
you look different.
Yeah, this probably looks familiar to you, but like different or something like that. Where it was like so like
reminds me of Harry Potter, where like they switched Dumbledore's partway through the series, but in that series they just didn't mention it.
And I think this would have been better off if they would have just not mentioned it, because that just made another confusing part of the movie where it's like, why is the Oracle changed? Because it wasn't going to be. So they talk to the Oracle, and I don't remember. She says something about him in limbo or something, right? And they find out that this train man works for. The train man is the only one who can take people in and out of limbo.
Yep.
He works for some gangster in the
French
Matrix.
man.
The French man, the Merovingian or Merovingian, or
I'm just gonna call him French Fry.
Yeah, French Fry for short.
French Fry Phil.
Fry guy. And so they go to the French Fry, and they have to go through an S&M club to get to him.
Because 2003.
Yeah, and they're all wearing leather jackets, so this is a very
Also, I just want to point out, probably what I think, what the funny thing about the Matrix is now is like, oh, wasn't there supposed to we're supposed to like blend in to be like normal people, but then they're wearing like these, like poor Trinity, she has to wear like this leather bodysuit like the entire series or whatever, so it just seems really uncomfortable. Just imagine the amount of chafing when you're trying to do all those crazy stunts or bullet time or whatever.
Yeah, because everyone else, like all the guys get like cool flowing leather jackets,
like
they look really awesome, and she's like, guys, wait up.
I kind of want to see like the source sound of it's like, what was the the unedited audio track before they
you're squeaking again.
Poor Carrie-Ann Moss.
They go to the French Fry to find so they go through all of this S&M party dancers in like the leather and the zipper mouths and
whatever, and then like Blade is there killing vampires or something. I wish
that would have been cool. He would have fit in this. He always had a long flowing coat.
Maybe. He had said nonsensical things.
And so they go there to find the hobo, and they chase the hobo through a subway because he's running to his train to get away from them. And this is where they start doing like the stylized stuff where like there's the bullet time and everything, where everyone else is hopping across the
like
turnstile.
a turnstile.
And then Trinity
It's
like
just
goes
she
and does this
it's like a full cartwheel over the turnstile.
like slow motion.
I like to imagine they had some extra money left in the effects budget.
And so they asked the stunt person to give her the flip over the turnstile because that was necessary.
Yeah, I think it was.
And they jump on it. Oh, I have written down that like a hobo is a train man. So this was before because they found him on the train.
They found him. Like, hey, you. And then I put this in my notes. Then he looks at it. It's like he pulls down like his sleeve of his coat or his dirty coat because this is like a dirty looking long haired guy, kind of like what you would imagine that like Nick Nolte does on a weekend. But and so Nick Nolte, I'm just gonna call him Nick Nolte. It's not actually played by Nick Nolte. He might as well be though. So Nick Nolte looks at his watch and then he looks at it and he has like 8 or 9 watches. That just reminds me of the scene from Back to the Future where he's like Marty's trying to come with the car and then Doc looks at his watch, damn, pulls down another watch, damn, and he's like wearing 3 watches. Well, this guy is wearing like 8 watches all on the same wrist, which I like to imagine. Poor guy's gonna get either like carpal tunnel or can he feel anything in his left hand because there's so many watches on that wrist.
Well, he is the train man. So how many trains does he have to keep track of, like, their schedules? So he's probably got, like, one for each time zone. And
I don't know. But then you have a whole other hand you could use, too. And also, because the funny thing about this whole film being, it seems kind of dated now. And it is to a point because, I remember basically, like, in the general rule of the Matrix is that you have to answer, like, a payphone to get out of the Matrix or something. But now I feel like all those chase scenes or whatever would really kind of not be very interesting because you just take your phone out of your pocket and press a button and you're out of the Matrix.
Well, maybe cell phones don't work. Maybe it's only payphones. They have to be like landline.
Okay, well, how come as technology keeps progressing, like the weird squid bots are still stuck in like late 90s? Whatever, there's a case to be made there if you want to make it, but who cares?
Oh, I did have a note that back to the club. There was some weird gravity thing going on there too. Did you notice that? Like the bad guys were like flipping and then walking around on the ceiling to shoot Trinity and Morpheus and Seraph.
Because Matrix.
Because it's the Matrix, so you can just
you can do that.
You can do whatever you want in the Matrix. Bullet time, walk on ceilings, it's all there.
Eat a steak,
Well, when they went to the Frenchmen, they actually asked for Neo because he knew where he was. And he said he wants the eyes of the Oracle, so that was their little deal. But then Trinity's like, no, I'll just shoot you in the forehead.
Oh, no, we do this instead. Bang, 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 bullet time, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, and so they all end up at the station and find Neo because the trainman finds Neo. Now I'm getting like confused on the timeline on that because it's all
so
like...
we cut back to the train station where the family is waiting for the train. And Neo is there too, so then Train's like, hey, come on, guys, get on the train, I'm already late.
And Neo wants to get on.
We're going to go somewhere safe. He's like, hey, can I come too? He's like, no, I'm already late, can't go, but I want to get on. So then the train man pushes him back. And then
he actually punches him. He knocks Neo out.
So then Neo goes back and flies back and hits the subway tiles or whatever. And then so they start to fall off. And I thought that'd be kind of interesting where Neo would realize like something like with the wall of the train, like try and punch his way out that way with the wall of the train station itself as opposed to actually just getting a train, but never mind.
That's true. Because then that's the point where the train man goes off on his train and Neo goes, well, I'll just chase after it. And you see him come through and then he comes through the other side of the screen.
Just like a cartoon.
Like the old Scooby-Doo cartoons where they're in one door and out the other door on the other side of the screen. After all that, then they ended up they got Neo woken up in the real world.
Because they go to see the Oracle or something, and Neo realizes, wait a minute, I can just wake up now or something?
Yeah, because, again, science magic. And they're out in the real world. Now, the real world's, like, real shitty. And
yeah, I mean,
it's all
generic dystopia land. We live underground. Zion's like this big party.
Cables.
See, I know the Matrix Reloaded by reputation. That's what people remember the most. Is like Zion is the big like rave or whatever, and a bunch of really sweaty people.
Yeah, it's sweaty people in a cave jumping up and down. Why are you jumping up and down if you're already that sweaty? I don't know. But then like everything outside of Zion is like all just like conduits and places. Like their ship is flying through like just tunnels of pipes and wires, and then they're being chased by these squid bots.
Squidbots, yep.
Well, what are they called? They're called Sentinels. But yeah,
Well, that just makes me think of the big robots from X-Men.
Yeah, so let's not confuse that.
So
They're
Squidbots.
Squidbots. So they're being chased because they're all on a ship out there outside of the city, and they're looking for Niobe. That one was played by Jada Pinkett Smith, I believe.
Oh, that's cool.
They're looking for her and her ship because she's lost out there somewhere, and then they found her. And they're talking to the council, and then there's some guy talking about the council in Zion.
To the council, they're like, "Oh man,
there's
the
going to be
Squidbots
attack.
are going to be attacked because we're getting towards the end of this war that we've barely seen anything of."
Yeah, so they're going to start evacuating the city. Zeke and some other people are volunteering to protect the docks. Zeke is a woman in Zion, and her boyfriend, I don't remember the character's name, is on the ship with like Morpheus and all of those guys.
Morpheus and the gang.
And so she's like, no, I'm going to stick around and protect the docks and wait for them. So
yeah.
And then Neo goes, I need to go to Machine City to pick up some spare parts.
They go talk to the Oracle. And it seems like everyone talks to the Oracle in this movie. Everyone and their cousin, because then like the little girl from the train station also hangs out with the Oracle, and they make cookies.
Yeah, they do.
They make
the little girl from the train station makes cookies.
They make really nice cookies, it seems like.
But we have to point out that Neo, it's discovered at the end of The Matrix that he's the one who will save them all. Well, then I think there's doubt in the second movie, but Lawrence Fishburne, Morpheus, still believes in him. So that and Fishburne is like this, father figure to everybody. So everybody else
playing
is like,
Lawrence Fishburne.
He is, really. He's everybody's father.
He's had that voice since he was super young, so
So when Neo says, well, I need to go, well, Niobe's like, well, take my ship.
Okay.
Just take it on a suicide mission to Machine City, I guess, because we all believe in you.
Yep.
And so he goes off, and then we just have the one ship still, and Trinity actually goes with Neo. And then on the other ship, there were two people in a coma, and one was Neo, and then the other one was Bane, which is a great name for, what would he be? A bad guy, maybe.
I just kind of wish it was the same Bane from Batman.
That would be great if he broke someone's back.
Yes.
Well, instead he just stabs the doctor.
What a jerk.
I know, right?
Because if I remember, then at the end of the second one, like, something happens where, like, Agent Smith has found a way to infect Bane or whatever, and then basically Agent Smith wakes up in Bane's body and takes him over because Agent Smith does the stabby liquid thing that he always does.
Yeah.
But that was at the end of Reloaded.
And I'd have to look up I remember seeing that this guy got this part because of his Hugo Weaving impression.
Nice.
And actually, I was noticing that when he was doing this, I'm going, he sounds a lot like Hugo Weaving. Oh, that means he must be possessed by Hugo Weaving. That's
creepy. And then
creepy.
at one point, Hugo Weaving goes to the Oracle because everyone goes to the Oracle and is like, hey, how do I do this? And then they're like, oh, well, Oracle is just the exposition machine because something pseudo philosophy something.
Is this when Smith was talking to?
Yeah.
And when he goes in, he talks to Oracle and says, oh, you're supposed to know everything.
Did you know I was gonna come here? Did you know I was gonna smash this plate of cookies that you and the little girl made?
Well, he put like something on the table and he goes, did you know I was gonna put that? I bet you probably did, and if you knew that, then you knew I was going to throw it against the wall. But if you knew all that, then you know what.
Why did you bother making these cookies in the first place?
And then why are you still sitting here? You must know what I'm going to do if you knew that. He's just speculating on everything and like talking himself.
He's almost talking himself up to through his own loops.
Yeah. And she just sat there and just took it, and then
She's
he sticks his.
I still believe. Then he does his stabby thing, and he stabs them, and then he turns them into like another clone of him or whatever. And also like you open the door when the Oracle has like 5 Hugo Weavings come in because one isn't enough.
Yeah, you always need a backup of several Hugo Weavings.
Yes.
And trust me, that's not even the.
And then this moment was turned into a GIF because the internet was where he takes off his sunglasses and just goes ha 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 and laughs in a really weird way. Just look up The Matrix Revolution, like Agent Smith laugh or something. It's pretty great.
It's probably a GIF.
It's also very non-human.
Or a GIF.
GIF, who cares?
I don't care. back to Neo's ship. Bane had woken up and killed that doctor without them knowing, and then before Neo took off, Bane had snuck on with Neo and Trinity.
Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky.
Sneaky, sneaky. So then,
Sneaky, 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 sneaky. I assume it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
and he sneakily gets up behind them, and he attacks Trinity by like blowing out a fuse or something and making her come down from the cockpit, and she goes down, and he attacks her, and then leaves her down there and goes up and attacks Neo and burns out his eyes, because then we can find out that Neo can see without his eyes.
He still has like Matrix vision or whatever.
Or he's all green.
All green, but then he sees that it's actually Hugo Weaving, because in his Matrix vision he sees that it's actually Agent Smith, and then he kills him and electrocutes him or whatever.
Yeah. So he burns out his eyes, and then they have a big fight, and they end up taking him out and keep going on their merry way to Machine City. It sounds like Circuit City or something.
I don't know. Circuit, yeah, Machine City sounds. I assume it's just like AutoZone.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Exactly. Thank you. The AutoZone is just like the Matrix. I figured it out. It finally makes sense.
This show is not brought to you by AutoZone because we do not have sponsors yet.
Not yet. The show is sponsored to you by this piece of paper that I'm holding with my notes on it.
Exactly.
So then at the same time, we cut back to Zion and the land of the whatever. The council's like, oh, there's going to be attack. I need half the infantry. And this is a good point to talk about how this entire movie, it's kind of hard to watch because it's really hard to get the volume up. Maybe it's just because I'm an old man. And by old man, I mean in my early 20s. And as an old man in my early 20s, it's kind of annoying because, if you're watching this on the TV or whatever, you have the volume turned up to like, I don't know, you have the volume turned up because everyone is always kind of whisper talking.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to demonstrate it, but you know what I'm talking about. This has been in other Wachowski movies also. I don't know why. But for whatever reason, they just like to talk really low. And sort of they just talk really softly and not show any emotion because whatever. Because, the one thing you don't want an actor to ever do is emote.
Exactly. And then you get into these big action scenes.
And like the music and the sound effects really swell up, so you're like, then you got to turn your sound down, but then there's like another silent scene like 5 minutes later, and you got to turn your sound back up. So it's like you're fighting the sound mixed itself, and that's not something you want to do.
So now the thing is though, when you get even older, up to my age, you notice that this is every action movie known to man. And like I can't hear the dialogue in anything without having to turn the dialogue up and then turn the action down. Like so when I watch a movie, maybe I am just an old man, but when I watch a movie, I usually watch it when my daughters are in bed. So I have to have the control in my hand all the time to turn it up, turn it down, turn it up, turn it down.
I just ended up turning the subtitles on.
I actually have had a habit of doing that ever since my children were babies.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I can't actually watch a movie without subtitles. But that's a whole different thing.
Not even if you go to the theater anymore?
I wish that I could put subtitles in the theater because you would be surprised how much you can catch that you don't normally catch. You're not missing anything vital, but sometimes you'll get pieces of dialogue that you've never heard before, and you go, oh, that was interesting.
I don't know. My favorite subtitles are always just like when it's just in parentheses, and it's always just whatever sound effect is going on. When there's
dramatic music.
I know, I understand. It's for people who have hearing issues, and that's cool. But we're not taking away from that. But I was watching some other movie, and then like every once in a while, I'd just be like, birds chirping. And this seemed like every 15 minutes on the subtitles just be like, birds chirping. Then there was one time it was like, dogs barking. Ooh, the dogs are barking. There weren't any cats in this film for whatever reason, but there were.
The birds stopped chirping because the dogs attacked them.
Exactly, I assume so. And then there was one scene where the birds were chirping and the dogs were barking at the same time. It was thrilling.
Cats and dogs living together. Well, I guess we're digressing a little bit, but so we go back to the them all getting ready and
ready for big battle.
There's an introduction to a minor character that like plays a big role. And, like he's wheeling along like this.
I'm gonna call him Nervous Kid.
Yeah, Nervous Kid is wheeling like this.
Because he signed up to be part of the military or whatever, and then he has like this scene with him and like
the leader of the Met guys.
General what's his face. So he talks to General what's his face. I want to join the I want to stay here to help in the attack. He's like, how old are you, son? 18. He's like, don't lie to me, son. But he's younger, but he wants to help. I was all right, fine, do this, but don't screw up or something.
Yeah, well, no, because then he goes, well, how old? Don't lie to me. He goes, I'm 16. Well, 16 is not old enough to be in the military. He's like, well, I just want to help, dude. But everybody's gonna die anyway, so don't screw it up.
Yeah.
So then that's the start of their little relationship, even though they just met.
And then there's another scene with them later on in the film where I guess he's like supposed to be like sort of a grunt job where he's supposed to help with bullets or reload these crazy giant mechs or something.
Because they're getting into giant mechs to fight the
Squid
bots. And these mechs, to give you an idea, they're really bad CGI that look like a cross between the construction thing that Sigourney Weaver gets into in Aliens and the Ed 209.
That's a good way of putting it. And also there's no real face or body protection.
No, so that's where it comes into like the Aliens thing.
Yeah.
But then instead of the clamp arms, it's guns.
It's gun arms.
So, but
like pew 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 pew. Does that mean they also fall downstairs and can't do very well there either? Or
I would assume so. I never saw any stairs in this movie.
No, I didn't see any stairs either.
I did.
They better make a Matrix 4 to address this situation.
I did write down a bit of dialogue because this was like the best thing ever. Was the main general or whatever gets into his mech suit and he's talking to everyone else and he's doing his little inspirational speech about saving the docks and saving Zion. But like he starts his speech, if it's our time to die, it's our time to die.
This is not just a day. We celebrate our Independence Day or whatever.
That's how you start an inspirational speech to save your city?
And then they blow up the White House.
Oh,
or am I getting my movies confused again?
I think so. Well, this is just all what. Then this movie from here kind of turns into like a 40-minute action scene, like shoot 'em up like drones and ships.
It almost becomes a big tower defense video game.
It kind of does.
Because so they've got this bottleneck of where the robots are going to come through. So then everyone just... Then this mech starts shooting at the bots, and the bots attack. Squid bots attack.
And the squid bots are getting in because there's these giant drills coming through. Like the city is actually underneath, like I don't know if it's in a cave or if it's just like a built-in like huge structure.
It's I'm just gonna call it the Bat Cave.
Yeah, and so there's these giant drills that come through the ceiling, and it looks like a giant drill turd that like drills through and plops down on the ground, and then it's starting to drill into the ground there too. So I don't know. It's just trying to get to the core of the earth.
I guess so, or the core, or wherever all the people are. So they can...
It's not trying to destroy your city. It just happened to be in the way.
And then the squid bots attack, and pew 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 pew, bang bang bang.
So we got mechs versus octopi, squid bots.
Mechs versus squid bots.
And and then some of them, like including Zeke, go off with like these giant rocket launchers to take out the drills. And they get one of them destroyed, and then of course the second one comes down, and it all goes to hell.
Blah blah blah. But it just feels like. But the worst part is this. I mean, this is a scene where giant squid bots are fighting giant mechs. This should be awesome, but this is probably one of the biggest faults of this movie is the fact that this scene where there's literally giant mechs shooting giant squid bots or whatever in like an underground cave and they're fighting for the sake of their own lives. This should be exciting, but it's not. This is the most boring giant mech fighting scene I've seen.
It almost looks like
my entire
video game
life.
cutscene,
but not like in a cool way.
Not a cinematic one, but just kind of a like, oh, here's a cut to, oh, this was happening, we got attacked.
It's like I'm almost expecting like a contextual button mash or whatever to button press so I can continue on.
Push X to fire.
Something like that. And then you want to keep trying to skip it.
Yeah. While that's happening, they go back to the ship. So all these squid bots are coming to Zion, and then the ship they have Niobe piloting because apparently she's the best pilot ever, and she can go through the what were they the mechanical lines or
the tunnels.
Yeah, they called him the mechanical, because she says, "Oh, I can do it." Because then that later comes into she bumps a wall, and then the squid bots wake up because they were trying to get through there quietly and get back to Zion. Well, they're bringing more squid bots to Zion because now they're being followed.
This should be another cool scene. It's a tense chase scene in sort of a claustrophobic tunnel area as they're desperately trying to get back to Zion so they can help. So once again, this scene is also supposed to be pretty awesome. On paper, this sounds awesome, but it's boring. Intent versus execution is everything.
Yeah.
And this just kind of flops around like a dead fish.
And it goes on so long
It feels
that's why.
long. Action scenes, a movie shouldn't necessarily need to feel long, because if you take something like, even like a legendarily long movie, something like Lawrence of Arabia, that movie doesn't feel long because everything is so well paced and so interesting. The characters are compelling enough where you could just kind of lose yourself in that movie, in that gorgeous cinematography in the desert. It doesn't feel long, and that's like a 3-hour, 4-hour movie. But this movie is only 2 hours and 10 minutes. It feels longer than 2 hours and 10 minutes.
This action scene alone feels like it's the full 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get all of this, and then it comes down to they try and make it dramatic at the end, because it comes down to like all of the mechs have been destroyed except for the general, and everyone's like dead and nobody's fighting anymore except for
General and
Nervous Kid. And Nervous Kid is like, oh man, he's got bullets for the general's mech, and he has to weave through everybody. He's like, oh man, don't screw this up, don't screw this up.
Then you've got a couple of other guys going through. But then, I'm going to be honest, out of this entire action scene, Nervous Kid trying to doing his best to get to the general on time without spilling his cases of bullets, that was actually a pretty decent scene.
Yeah, and well, because
that was actually compelling. I think it's because they did enough to set up Nervous Kid as a character, and they set the stakes right. I'm not exactly sure what went wrong with the entire big action scene, but just this tiny moment in this giant action scene, it's a legitimately good scene. It's a nice little scene. It has a beginning, middle, and end.
I think that's what went wrong with this big action scene, is that it's all big action scene, and they didn't have any more little moments. There should have been more little moments like this, with little character moments, where it was they introduce these two characters, and then they go action, 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 action forever.
Kind of big, all wide shots. You never really seen much of faces. People like faces. Now, if we contrast that with something like A New Hope, what's nice about that scene is, we talk about, they're the climax of the film, they're attacking the Death Star. There's all of these really nice close-ups of the people, of the pilots. So even someone like Porkins, who has, people only remember Porkins because of his name.
Yeah.
But he still has a nice little moment where he goes down. People will remember Porkins. People don't remember anything about this scene from The Matrix Revolution.
No, but they should remember Nervous Kid.
Nervous Kid.
Because then they also put some tension in there, because he's trying to, weave through all this stuff, and then, they cut that with, more action from the general, and then they cut back to him. The general's out of bullets, so the kid's got to, get the thing up into the mech, and one of them doesn't go all the way in, so, he's got to climb up there
and then he kicks it
in, and the general's going, and then it's this dramatic scene where all these squids are coming at him, and he's just shooting right down the middle of them. And, I'm going, how did everyone else die when he was able to survive this? Although then
he doesn't survive much longer.
Ultimately, he ends up not surviving.
He gets cut by the squid bots.
His face just ripped to shreds.
Although I don't know, he looks fine. He's got a few minor cuts, honestly. He looks
couple
okay.
Minor cuts, just half of his face ripped off. So then he's like, I'm dying, kid, but we got to open the gate for Morpheus and the gang. You got to cut the counterweight on the gate. So he dies.
My God, Nervous Kid is finally fulfilling his destiny, and Nervous Kid gets into mech suit.
And he runs over,
kind of like a drunk person.
Like a drunk bot. We got drunk bot running down this walkway too. It's like a catwalk type thing, compared to the size of the mech. If it was just a human, it's huge, but with the mech, it's oh, you be careful there, you fall off the edge there, you're done.
So Drunkbot's doing his thing. He goes cutting the counterweight, and at the same time, all this battle scene is happening. It goes on forever. Then Neo and Trinity have now made it to the surface, and then they see there's these giant kind of, I'm gonna call it combine robots that are spitting out other robots and
Yeah, these are like the
basically
harvester ones from
tending the farm
from the first movie where they harvest
the
like the
humans,
people and stuff
like
like
the
that.
human pods or whatever, if they're growing humans. So combine bots doing their thing, and they're like, oh, we can't go around them, can't go through them, can't go under them,
Gotta
just go over them.
And then they go up like into these this electrical storm clouds, and like, cause like everything in the real world is, even when you're on the surface, it's all
Kind of darker
storms
grays and blues,
and just
the color palette.
yeah, and just
Well,
bleak.
when you're in the Matrix, even if you've seen the numbers, like the weird number thing, the Matrix is just, it's all kind of greens and grays and blacks.
So they go up above, and
by goodness,
once they get through,
there's
they go,
actually color.
and then they
and
get like this beautiful sunset. He's like, it's beautiful.
And I was watching this, and I think I have this in my notes, and it's just like, color!
And
Take it away!
And we don't get that again until the very end scene.
Mm-hmm.
But then they have to fly back down because they need to get into Machine City. So then they get attacked, and like there's like, I don't know if it's like rebar or something they shot through there, because
I don't know, they hit something,
and
because whatever.
Trinity
She gets stabbed, so Trinity dies.
Well, Neo can't see, so he's like talking to Trinity, and she's like, well, I don't think I can go on. He's like, why not? And because he can't see her, and so he like feels around. Oh shit, you got stuff shoved all through you.
And then she got done dead. So Trinity dies again, because she technically died in the second one, but Neo worked his chosen one magic to bring her back. But she dies anyway in this one, so that was pointless.
Yeah, and then he talks to the big
I'm gonna call it Machine Baby.
the big machine baby. It's like a giant face made out of machines. And
I
stuff.
assume it's like the Wizard in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that's
Except
probably
instead
like
of like a guy with a mustache, it's just a giant machine baby.
Machine City is actually being run by a human.
It's just some jerk name. It's just like Steve Jobs or something.
It's Nervous Kid. It's Nervous Kid's brother.
It's just Nervous Kid's brother, Evil Kid.
So he talks to this giant machine face, and he's like, dude, I just want peace between us. Like, let's stop the war. Well, Machine City is what sent the Agent Smith, I'll call him a virus, into the Matrix. Well, Agent Smith has been taking over everything, so he's gotten a little too much into the Matrix, and so Machine City kind of wants him stopped too, because Agent Smith is coming into the real world now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, you know what? I'm going to take out Agent Smith if you give us peace. And they're like, you can't do that. He goes, oh, well, yeah, I will. So they're like, okay.
Baby's like, okay,
cool. You want to go fight? Do you want to go fight him?
Also, I am the great and powerful Oz. Anyway.
So then Machine City can just jack you in because they got machines everywhere.
I guess. So then they send him back into the Matrix one last time. And
Yeah.
then we see the entire place is just a bunch of Agent Smiths, which is, I assume, what happens like if you're like on Twitter or something, you're on YouTube and you've got a bunch of subscribers, but those subscribers are bots. This is, I guess, the physical manifestation of Twitter bots and YouTube bots.
All Twitter bots are Agent Smith.
Are Hugo Weaving, yes.
So they have the big epic fight in the rain. So Hugo Weaving is fighting Neo. Hugo Weaving is fighting Neo. It's not Agent Smith.
Smith is fighting
Neo in the middle of the street in this
big rain, surrounded by other Agent Smiths.
The other Agent Smiths are just standing there. I'm going, you could win this fight if you all just like pounce on him.
And then they start flying, and then they fight, and they have a Dragon Ball Z fight.
They have a Dragon Ball Z / Superman destroying Metropolis
Man
fight.
of Steel fight, and I assume that
until Agent Smith takes Neo from like way up in the sky and like gives him a pile driver into the road.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure is what Superman did in Doomsday in The Death of Superman, but not that it matters. So they pile drive him into the road, and he's sad. He's like, oh man, I beat you, you've lost. And he's like, no, I haven't. It's like, oh yeah.
I like though, before he does this, he pile drives him, like he knocks him down, and Neo's trying to get up, and he's like, Neo, just stay down or whatever, or Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
Stay down. He's like, no. He goes, why, Mr. Anderson? Because I choose to.
Oh, Snappy.
And so he gets up and still gets his ass handed to him, and Agent Smith does his little stabby thing.
Stabby thing, and then Neo gets turned into an Agent Smith, and then he starts smiling, and he's like, "What's going on?" Says Agent Smith Zero, I guess, as opposed to Neo Agent Smith. And then Neo Agent Smith starts glowing and explodes.
And he breaks the virus.
And then all the Smiths start glowing, and then they explode because reasons. Everything explodes, and then everything is cool, Machine City or whatever. Cut back, big white explosion. And then we go back to Machine City, and we see, like, whatever, then, like, the Neo has become one with Machine Baby or something in their face.
Yeah, because then the Squid Bots all leave Zion. They're like, woo, we won, the war is over.
And then there's some other stuff. I forgot that the Morpheus and the gang do finally make it back to Zion.
They did, because Nervous Kid got the thing open.
And then they use an EMP, which is cool. Then it makes you wonder, how come, like, if you think EMPs were so effective against Squid Bots, why didn't they have giant EMPs all over Zion and the docks?
I was asking the same question. Like, do they not have the? You can't say they don't have the resources, because everything is electrical. Everything is.
You can hack into whatever all the time.
Yeah, you can build all these ships in like these electronic cities.
And these even these cool EMPs. Giant mechs. They can only have EMPs on ships, though.
Their only explanation was that it destroys everything else in the city because everything's electrical. Because the one guy
hardening is a thing, right? You can just cover it in some other metal, then you'll be fine.
Yeah, because they were all like, when they dropped the EMP, they're like, oh great, we knocked them all out. And the one guy who's always talking to the council, he's like, yeah, but that knocked us out too. So, but anyway, Neo broke the internet and broke the world, and the war is over. So yep. Neo really is the one. Whoa.
Yay.
And so we go to like a little epilogue thing where Seraph and Sati, the little girl, they go, and Oracle's sitting in a park. And this is another scene, one of the only scenes in the whole Matrix trilogy where you actually get green grass, like in a park with a
everything looks nice.
And the Oracle's sitting there, and they go up and they do their Oracle speak, where Seraph goes up and says, "Did you always know?" And she says, "No, but I believed."
And then we see a nice cloud, and then the end, and then you realize that you still don't really understand what happened in this movie. And I've heard an interesting theory that maybe like the Oracle knew stuff, but at the end of the day, it's honestly just kind of a boring film that I wouldn't watch. But also, at least for me personally, The Matrix doesn't mean nearly as much as it means to other people, because it's just one of those things where culturally I just kind of missed it.
You were too young when it came out. I was too young
for it when it came out, so by the time the series finished, I was still in grade school, and these are R-rated films. And then I came from a very sheltered family, went to private schools, that sort of thing. But whatever. So it's just one of those things I just kind of culturally missed.
And by the time you got to the point where you probably could see The Matrix, you've seen so many Matrix ripoffs that...
Yeah, Shrek ripped off The Matrix.
Shrek, yes, an animated kids movie ripped off
The
Matrix.
Not just any animated kids movie. Shrek.
And then Scary Movie.
Which I also didn't see, but you know what?
I think that was pretty a lot sooner after than a lot of the other things, because they even did Trinity's actual bullet time move from the Matrix movie on that one. Mm-hmm. So although I believe they did it with the Shrek one too. I think, like, was that the one where the grandma did something or whatever? She's kicking ass or something, and like she jumps up with her knees bent.
Like, that's the Trinity Princess move. Fiona. She jumps up with her knees bent, and she's like, two guys are around her. Then the camera spins around. She adjusts her crown while it's spinning because haha. And then she kicks out and then goes back down, and then that's it.
Yeah, because the knees bent thing is a Trinity move from the first movie.
Okay.
So that's where that comes from.
I still have not seen all of it.
Yeah. And I know that, like, this is, like, old hat now, and I'm going to also give my opinion. These are terrible movies. It's kind of ironic. We started doing this, we don't know what to watch, and we do these random movies, and so far we've gotten a bunch of movies I've never heard of that may be... That may be varying degrees, but I found something interesting in all of the movies we've watched. And then we get to one that was a big budget movie that I've actually seen in the theater, and it's probably the worst movie we've seen for this.
Well, I mean, there are still some interesting. I mean, it's a Matrix movie. What's nice about the Matrix movies, I mean, the production design and the effects, at least for the time, are top notch. So you can tell people put a lot of work into this. I thought the animation of the way the Squidbots moved was still kind of cool.
And part of it is just that it's been imitated so much that we think that this is like outdated. But your point is correct that at the time, this was pretty amazing.
They still put a ton of work in everything.
Yeah.
And, it's what I like about the Wachowskis, whether they fail or they succeed in their filmmaking, they go
big.
They go big, and they're very passionate. Like, it's even something like Speed Racer, which they did. It's dumb, but it's still fun, and it's also very colorful and kind of fun to watch these big action set pieces. Cloud Atlas was actually pretty good. Even something like Jupiter Ascending, which is bad, but it's so bad it's good, is still interesting visually and kind of fun to watch.
I have to disagree on a couple of those, but that's just my taste. Like Cloud Atlas, I think it was so far up its own butt that I didn't understand what was going on in that movie.
That's fair.
And then Jupiter Ascending, to me, was sometimes I love dumb movies that are so dumb they're fun. To me, Jupiter Ascending was almost so dumb it was dumb.
Yeah, but it has Sean Bean play a guy who's like partly genetically mixed with a bee, and his name is Stinger.
Oh, that's clever. That changes everything.
It really does. It just makes the whole movie better.
One interesting thing I read about this one was that, speaking of going big, the Wachowskis had this movie open at the premiered at the exact same time in all the major cities in the world. So like it'd be like 6 a.m. in LA, 9 a.m. in New York, and then whatever corresponding time in London.
And then
so I like to the actual hour. So I thought that was kind of an interesting.
That is pretty interesting, yeah.
I don't know what purpose that served, but that's pretty big.
That's cool. I mean, I haven't heard any other film kind of doing that. So.
Like I said, I don't like a lot of their movies because they try and put so much big ideas into it that they kind of get jumbled. Mm-hmm. But they do go big and they do try new things, and they put a lot into their movies, a lot of heart into their movies. And I will watch most of their movies just because they're interesting filmmakers.
Yep.
So with that being said, that is our take on The Matrix Revolutions, and we are going to spin the wheel.
End the episode like we end every episode.
Spinning the wheel.
Spin and win.
Spin to win. No whammy, no whammy.
No whammy, spin, and stop.
We're going musicals this time.
We picked a musical because I want something a little peppier, I guess, and something kind of...
And we got...
Till the Clouds Roll By from 1947, available on Amazon Prime.
So there you go. Until next time, go watch The Matrix.
Not Revolutions. Go watch Cloud Atlas. I like it better.